I would like to request Arunidhi Professor Meera Amma to guide us through the topic Transform in Silence. Meera Amma is the founding member of the Seattle Society in Greater Seattle area. She has been teaching sky practices for over 20 years. Professor Meera Amma has helped practitioners deal with stress, anxiety, and worry with Maharishi principles, which help the practitioners gain confidence during the difficulty times. Welcome, Meera Amma.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Actually, it's a divine's plan. It was great to hear Ulavan Thangavelaya's speech, actually. So it's my privilege. Actually, the technology interruption has helped me listen through it completely. And it is also hard to follow that speech because they are all much, much, much more experienced, not only in Vedatriyan principles, but also, as he insisted, in actually implementing in life, including practicing Mounam whenever possible. I would still try to share a few things from my perspective and what I've heard from various senior professors and also my personal experience, because I realized there are few people who probably didn't follow the whole speech because they didn't understand Tamil. For those who understand Tamil, maybe a few points would be definitely a repetition, because all of us are only carrying on Maharishi's messages throughout our sky teachings across the world. So thank you for the opportunity again. Be blessed by the divine. The greatness of Maunam is and transform in silence. Actually, the transformation in silence is the most important aspect of how we are going to use the next 3 days, or whenever we are able to spend even a few hours or a few minutes in silence. And uh, Maharishi is the only saint who have actually not only experienced the Maunam, understood the ecstasy of Maunam, but also come back to the whole universe from that experience and shared the criticality of everybody conducting, being in silence. If you think about, is he the only one who completed Maunam or who's been practicing Maunam? No, because many, many, many saints in several generations before him also practiced Maunam. In Maunam, when those saints actually not only experienced the Maunam, but also became one with it, completely dissolved in it. And because of that ecstasy and because of the enjoyment that they had in becoming one with the universe or absolute unified force or absolute space, they probably did not have the opportunity or the way to explain the ecstasy to come back and help us all common man like us. But such is the greatness of Maharishi, similar to how he simply explained where we came from one absolute truth. All of us are from that same one source of absolute space or absolute truth. He simply explained that so that everybody in the world can understand, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of our various educational or social economic background. Very similarly, he also wanted us to enjoy the fruit coming from the practices of silence. So I really applaud and feel gratitude and always beam with gratefulness for my opportunity, or for all of our opportunity, to be the disciple of this great guru Vedatri Maharishi. Many, many, many saints before also practiced silence. And one of the things, even in the contemporary world, many people, when they wanted to achieve great things, they have practiced Maunam. And some examples that some of you would have understood, would probably can relate to the Mahatma Gandhi, when many people in the world were actually in India were fighting for freedom. from the Britishers, they were trying various options to get independence to India. And it was probably going on more than 150 to 200 years. And there was not a way to get any solution. There has been violence in various parts of India, but there has not been a much of a solution that actually will change the mind of the Britishers. So there has to be some divine calling, or divinity has to provide a way or a solution. And that solution came to Mahatma Gandhi through intuition, and the intuition from the divinity came to him because of his consistent practice of Mounam every week. I heard that he used to be in silence every Wednesdays, one day a week, and based on which he got the solution of, let us follow the practice of non-violence and not the violence path. Only then it'll give us a permanent solution to India. And that worked, because when when Mahatma Gandhi started this non-violence movement, it was a very, very unexpected step from the Britishers, because when you go for a war, they had better equipment and better weapons and better strategy because they've been ruling us for 200 years. But when you go with non-violence, complete surrender and non-violence in terms of this approach, they had no other weapon against non-violence. So that came because of the intuition that he got based on the practice of Maunam. And similarly, I've heard speeches that Osho used to be in Maunam for more than 20, 30 days. And then suddenly coming out of Maunam, he said, I got connected with Buddha, who lived 5,000 years ago. And then based on that intuition, he was able to come and write a book called Tanma Padam, uh, saying the way it is. That book was written by Osho after the Maunam. Very similarly, Siddhananda Bharati, heard another example from another professor, where when he wanted to translate the 1,330 Tirukkural verses in English, he really observed silence for a week, connected his thoughts with the Tiruvalluvar, and then he came back from the Maunam and wrote those verses, which exactly matched very clear translation of Tirukkural in English. The reason I wanted to share these examples that I heard from other professors is Maharishi used to say, in silence, many benefits comes to us. One such benefit is connecting with people, connecting with thoughts of people who have solved similar problems, and connecting with various Mahans and Gurus, and getting to that attunement. And that will help us get the intuition needed to come and transform ourselves, and then also take care of the activity that we have to take care. So this, such is the importance of when they were all in Maunam, they achieved several great things that is beneficial to the larger human society, because the divine itself reveals itself and helps with solutions through the intuition. When we like today, when most of us knew Tamils, we were able to enjoy the speeches of Ayya Tangavelaya in all of his experiences, because we all understood Tamil. And some of us who couldn't understand Tamil, we are trying to summarize this in this speech right now. The same thing, because we have different languages, but these two languages will not work when I go to Europe or these into Japan or to Korea, because they speak different languages. Very similarly, when you have to understand somebody or when you have to communicate to somebody, you have to speak their language. It's exactly the same thing. When we have to connect ourselves to the divinity, the divine's language is silent. So you can't speak to the divinity in the languages that we have learned just to live our day-to-day lives in the society. We have to speak the language of the divinity to truly connect with the divinity, dissolve in the divinity, become one with the divinity. And so that is the powerful and the only language to become one with the divinity is the Mounam language, silence, because that's the only language that it can interact, create a proper interaction with both the divinity and the fraction of the divinity within ourselves. And Aya already covered this part, which is when we are allowed to speak, when we are asked to speak, we don't need anything. I can speak about a bottle in front of me. I can speak about anything that is happening around the world. There is no necessity for having a meaningful thing or a meaningful topic in mind to speak. You can speak anything. But when you have to practice silence, you need to have a source or you need to have an inspiration. And that source or inspiration or the thing that you need to truly practice Maunam is the absolute space. And that is where keeping our mind always in the absolute space during the entire Maunam days and visualizing the absolute space. And over the period of the whole 8 hours or 9 hours today, as you continue to visualize the absolute space and keep the mind always in absolute space, you can easily dissolve. There will be a point at which your mind will be dissolved within the absolute space and you will start to experience it ourselves. Maharishi says there are two ways that people can achieve spiritual advancement and also become one with the divinity. One is realization. Realization is something that happens like people like Maharishi, where they practice it, they become one with the absolute space. They realize that everybody is coming from that, everybody came from that absolute space, understood the oneness in the universe, and became one with it. It's a self realization. So that is one way to achieve the Brahmanyanam or become one with the universe, one with the absolute space. The second aspect is the enlightenment. I would say most of us, I can't speak for, there may be people who are in the realized path already, but most of us who are currently practicing Vedatriyam are still in the journey of enlightenment. When somebody has completely absolved themselves, and when the divinity itself reveals itself, reveals and explains the truth, and it comes as an intuition and revelation, it is called realization. When we are listening to such practices, we are actually practicing such practices, and we are also taking measures such as the next 2 to 3 days to be silent and to become one with the absolute space. We will also enjoy similar benefits through constant awareness and constant practice. And that is called enlightenment. Even though it is not self realization right now, at least we are achieving enlightenment at this time. And that enlightenment over the period of time, when you become one with and follow the path of enlightenment and not deviate because of any temperaments, then we can also then enjoy the same level of self-realization that people like Maharishi has enjoyed in their life. And the to connect why we have to do Maunam. Ulavan Tangavelaya and Maharishi has explained it over and over, because it's the language of the divinity. It is where we can go and expiate all the sins, because in Agna meditation we are stopping adding more sins. In Duriyam meditation, we are at least trying to dissolve and put more new good imprints, so that whatever we did in age 3 to now, you're trying to put new imprints by being in a much aware state in the Duriyam state. But in the Duriyadidam state is when we are trying to expiate, like remove the sins completely, because once you go to that level of frequency, then anything that is imprinted as sense beyond that divine frequency, all of them does not get opportunity to show itself, and over the period of time it gets eliminated. So for true expiation, becoming one with the absolute space, not only during the 30 minutes meditation, we probably spend around 5 minutes in Turyadidam, but during Mounam period, during the silence period, when we try to focus on absolute space, because that's the only thing that is very critical during the absolute space, then we get to expiate much more and more and more. And again, Maharishi used these techniques to again help with some of the things he also taught during regular introspection. So, you know, in the when we do the analysis of thoughts in the introspection practice, he normally says that obviously when you start to do the analyze thoughts, there'll be much more thought that keeps coming to you consistently, and all of it is nothing but everything is recorded in our genetic center due to all the practices that we might have accumulated through our own actions, thoughts, and words, and only those things that are recorded keeps coming back again and again and again. And so when we have to go through and analyze everything, then at that time, connecting back with absolute space during then you will notice why these thoughts are coming. Okay, I went to India last year. I'm able to clearly see, clearly, even in a second, you're able to go to your hometown and come back, even when I'm giving this example right now. Very similarly, anytime you can recall anything, because especially when you watch the TV show that you have seen multiple times, it's easy for you to remember it in a second, each and every dialogue from a nice movie that you have seen repeatedly, or the taste of a food that you really like. You can instantaneously feel the taste, even though you're not tasting it right now. If you think of a dish that you really like, you can feel the saliva coming out of our tongue. So very similarly, if you continue to practice focusing on the absolute space, majority of the time, the same natural concept will follow, which is the same absolute space will keep reminding you within, will be that's the one that you can recall most of the time. So if instead of just doing worldly activities all the time, by practicing 3 days or 3 hours or even an hour, completely focusing on absolute space over and over and over again, you will be able to completely remember the absolute space and recall it, very similarly to a favorite dish that you've been eating so far, or favorite movie song that you want to listen again. Because it's the same recorder. It is not going to differentiate between they are thinking about absolute space, so I'm going to record less, or they're thinking about a favorite food, I'm going to record more. It's the recorder is the same. The way it gets recording is the same. The principles are the same. So the more we think about absolute space, the more we become one with it, and the more and more and more, only that thought will start to come to us much more. And so that's one other this I have realized, especially in the beginning stages when we were really, it was sometimes people will say, I can think of absolute space, but I still couldn't stay very, very, very long. But once I started to do Mounam after we completed at the time fourth introspection and even Brahmanyanam, the rule used to be when we go to Aliyar and be with Mounam in the presence of Maharishi, that's an extremely blissful experience that I have, because Maharishi used to do 1 month Maunam, and I was in part of those sessions in 1970s. But when he did from 1995 to 2001, all of those 6 years, several years, I was able to go and be in the presence in that same environment. He used to do that for 15 days, but being in Maunam for 3 days in that present, in his presence, was an absolute blissful experience. And then after that, following all the Brahmanyanam understanding and also doing much more deeper meditation on Duryatitam really helped me, because that's just my personal experience. Also, the day after you complete the Mounam, as you will know that you're able to transform yourself. You're completely a new personality compared to something that you started on December 25th morning. You will realize yourself at the end of day tomorrow that you're a completely new transformed personality, because the 3 days you're not adding anything clutter into your closet, not more clutter. Instead, you're becoming one with the absolute space, and that helps even observe the thoughts that is coming in. Just be an observer, and that observation, whether it is um, bundled up vengeance for some reason, or things, list of desires, unsolved desires or unachieved desires, or whether it is remembering instances of something that is not pleasant that happened. So those thoughts continue to come to us when we try to sit in Maunam, because you're not going to go from directly from here in the 14 directly to the absolute space. There is a journey. Even if you think of absolute space, you can think of it in a second, but thinking is different than becoming one with it. Even when I say the absolute space, the word absolute space today, right now, I am thinking of absolute space, but I'm speaking. And in that, because of that, my frequency is different. I am not in 0 to 1 state right at this moment. Very similarly, we're all, as part of the Maunam 8 hours, we're going to go through already the different stages of frequency reduction. It won't go directly from, let's say, in the morning when we enter it in 30, all the way up to 1 or 0 within a matter of one hour or so. It might take a few hours to really absolve yourselves with the absolute space. And during the journey, obviously, many thoughts that's been accumulated so far or imprinted in the genetic center will continue to start to show. And just be an observer of those thoughts, and it'll just keep on coming, like similar to how meaninglessly we can just browse through the Facebook, like click 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 click. Very similarly, just be an observer, don't be involved in it. And that's the best experience that I have faced during Maunam. And then in the few hours, then all of those will start to dissolve, and we can truly experience becoming complete silent. We'll be even lazy to think about anything new other than just becoming one with it and enjoying the feeling of ecstasy. And it takes time. It probably doesn't happen in day one, but the transformation starts when you start feeling that, yes, there's less and less thought that is coming. Now, at a certain point in time during the day, you'll feel that you're actually becoming one with the absolute space. So I hope everybody gets to enjoy those things, the same type of experiences that I have faced during the silence practice. Maharishi says there are the way that we have to observe Maunam is also because the importance is to remove the imprints in the genetic center, and the imprints also has what is needed and what is not needed, and or both will come. It's not just the thoughts that are going to be not needed. When there is a reminder from the genetic center will remind of both good deeds or good thoughts as well as the bad ones. So spending a few hours really trying to see which ones are good and bad. So that's the analysis. And then really complete the last three parts of the analysis of thoughts, which is realization that these are the unneeded thoughts, these are the unneeded actions that I want to correct myself. And these are the set of people that I feel um, vengeance, or these are the type of people that I just want to get away. Is it needed? They are also coming from the same absolute space. They are here to teach us a lesson. They are here to remove one of my imprints. And so I don't need to carry this grudge or vengeance within me. So whether it is person, whether it is thoughts, whether it is deeds, whether it is some past things that has happened to us, continuously thinking about them and blessing them within the 2 days that you come out of Maunam, there will not be any grudge with the individual. And so how many hour, if you feel like it is not enough when you sit the next time in Mounam, when you have much more similar thought that is coming, then it just tells us how much of imprints we may have and a lot more homework that we have to do, because these are not the homework that somebody else can do. So we have to this is, sadhana margam. It's something that we have to practice ourselves, as all the professors and even Magrishi insists. Similar to other topics, Maharishi's Mounam has to be experienced. And so I will only summarize a few more things before I conclude, because I know you've been listening to this for over an hour right now. One of the things Maharishi says, and we have personally experienced it, is there may be many, many, many problems that you think we think that we can solve. We can solve through money. We can solve through our position. We can solve through the position or the influence we have coming with the position, be it in family or be it in the socio-economic or in the workplace. There may be many problems that we think we can solve, but there are problems that you have no control over. There is no solution that can be solved through the money, through your position, through the influence you can have. தீர்க்க முடியாத பிரச்சனைகள், like unsolvable according to us, but we can't take the mind out of it because it might be intertwined with somebody who's most close to you, be it your parents, be it your children, be it your siblings, be it any, because everybody else mostly related to family. No problems, all those problems that you cannot solve, the solution will come, or how to deal with the problem, or how to help them come out of the problem. That will come through the intuition that we gain through the Maunam. Because Maharishi says, when you are in Maunam, similar to the other examples I shared, when the divine reveals itself, and when you really connect with the universal magnetism, and when you take it as a sankalpam, how to solve a certain issues, not through the money, not through your physical activity, not through your position of influence. It's surrendering to the universal field and the absolute space. In silence, it'll start to provide a solution automatically through intuition. Either there will be an acceptance mentality and you will completely surrender the problem itself to the divinity, or we will start to get some intuition as to how to deal with the issue, how to help the other person come out of the issue. And such problems cannot be solved with anything else you have with physical access, whether it is influence or money or even your own physical help. And so those problems can be solved, because he says, similar to how you can see the TV screens changing, the solutions of the same people who have suffered or gone through similar issues in the past and how they got solution, all of those would have been imprinted in the universal field. So by being in silence, by connecting with the absolute space, by reducing the frequency, your genetic center is getting ready to observe and to absorb all those solutions, and you will get the solutions from intuition, from your self-intuition. So that only can get from not just by 30 minutes meditation. We will get definite slow progress through meditation, absolutely important. But Maunam helps accelerate the progress, accelerate the purification of the genetic center, and accelerate getting solutions to these problems that we thought we could solve otherwise. And people also have questions on how much, many times Maharishi says, if you can't afford for 15 days, if you can't afford for 3 days, even 3 hours a day, once a month, or 1 hour a day, or even any time that you have any opportunity to be silent, just be silent and think of absolute space. That's the, you know, it's not, there is no excuse for Thai practitioners who have achieved, who have understood the absolute space and where we come from, not to practice Maunam, because it's extremely helpful for each one of us in that path. And, the genetic center of purification, we, we think that we don't have much imprints of negative imprints, but we will all realize as we start to sit in the Maunam, based on the number of thoughts, based on the number of actions, activities that are happening around us, and based on the experiences that we are going through in the current life, current phase of life, we will know how much of imprints that we all have only when we sit and silently watch that are the thoughts that are coming to us. And it is like complete deep set of baggage. And Maunam helps us accelerate, dig through the deepest thought, deepest level of imprints, because when we are silent, we are directly connecting with the absolute space. And it helps us understand the depth of all the imprints that we have. And it could be, it could be for some people, it could be, after even just one Maunam, people could feel really light. And then as we put through the practices of introspection, the same experiences can continue. But we all know we are not, we're also living in the society. We are also living with other family members. We're also living in a socio-economic environment. So everyday pace of life changes. That is why purification of genetic center is a lifelong journey, and Maunam is one of the greatest tool that helps with accelerate the purification much faster. So that not only we are in the enlightenment stage based on the Brahmanyanam theories that we have experienced, we have heard and learned, but also we get the same ability as our saints to really achieve the self-realization ourselves. Um, it, Again, Maunam is a boon that is given to Maharishi. If without Maharishi's divinity's blessing, without our parents' blessing, without our guru's blessing, it's hard even to get opportunity to do Maunam, even though it is easy to just say, yeah, you can do 1 hour Maunam. So first, I congratulate all of you joining the session and experiencing it for the past 3 days, for the past 2 days. And I wish all the best for the next remaining period of Maunam. And I hope you'll get to do this more and more and enjoy the benefits of Maunam, similar to my own personal journey. We all are on the same path together. So thank you for the opportunity to both listen to the senior professor, but also share a few of my own thoughts. Varga Valamudan, be blessed by the divine.
Be blessed by the divine. Thank you, Meera Amma, for sharing the insight of how silence influenced the great leaders in achieving the greatness and your practical tips on how to become one with absolute space. We are all feeling blessed to have listened to your speech and also Senior Professor Udavan Tangavelu Aya's speech. Now let's bless Meera Amma. Professor Meera Amma and her family be blessed by the divine. By the grace of divine, Professor Meera Amma and her family may enjoy good health, long life, enough wealth, prosperity, wisdom, and peace. Thank you, Professor Meera Amma. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.